Hey, what's up, guys? Sean here at Blue Ridge Silverhound. It's been quite a while since I did a kind of like forward-facing kind of video on camera, but I wanted to take some time to discuss some of the the chatter, the talk at the recent Northeast Oklahoma Tulsa coin show, which is held in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was probably one of my favorite shows I've ever been to. There was, if I had to guess, probably 40, 45 tables in total. And I feel like that number is going to grow. But what really made it more exciting this year than it has in years past, and I only went to the show last year where they had it at the old downtown convention center, is that this year they have some of the major players in the game that were in attendance. And I'll just go ahead and name off a few that were in attendance. SD Bullion was there, and seeing as how that this is a content creator driven show. I think the show organizer might be kind of like changing course on that and making it a more relevant, bigger show. That's going to, be one that's talked about, up there in the top 20% of national shows. That's kind of a tall ask. But it seems to be that the direction is heading that way. And that's in a way a little bit unfortunate because in the beginning, it was the show about content creators. Okay. It was like, anyone, that talked about coins was certainly invited to have their own table there. That's why guys like Silver Seeker, Rob Finds Treasure, Coin Crew, Mad Stacker, myself, the live coin Q&A, and then anyone else I did forget, my apologies for that. They're usually, kind of the big draws to these. We kind of saw things turn the tide this year. It's more or less kind of like the corporate coin show. I hate to use that terminology. I don't know how else to describe what was, but it kind of felt like I was walking into, say, a Central State show or a Long Beach Expo, things like that. Okay, and what I mean by that is you walk in the door, you had all of your major players. Like I said, SD Bullion was there. There were a few bigger outfits that deal in precious metals and things like that were in attendance, but also on the list we also had big grading companies like Annex. NGC was there for 2 days. They actually had to leave a day early so that way they could make the Baltimore Whitman show, which is very high on their calendar, but they were kind of like a last second addition to the Northeast Oklahoma coin show. This kind of like country bumpkin show out of nowhere is all of a sudden growing in size. CACG was there all 3 days. Okay, so it started on Thursday. It was kind of like a half day affair, and then we had full days on Friday and Saturday. The U.S. Mint was there, which is a huge game changer. I mean, anytime you could get the U.S. Mint to be a part of a show, it's to put it right up on the map. Because they do talk about where they're going to be at any show at any given time across the country. So to have the U.S. Mint there was certainly awesome, and it's only going to be a matter of time before we see some of the other bigger players in the game. When it comes to like bullion and some nationally known numismatists and big coin dealers, they're going to start to pay attention to shows like this. From what I understand, all right, the moment that the last day of the show had occurred and came and went, a lot of these larger companies and entities have re-upped for next year. So we're going to see those same grading companies. We're also going to see the U.S. Mint come back for another go-around in 2025. So that's more or less a very strong foundation of what could be just a much bigger show. And I'm going to tell you, based off of the venue, which they've changed to the Marriott Spring Hill Suites, it's actually at the Ruffin Center. What I can see is that they do have extra room. They're going to end up filling all of these empty tables. And it's not like it's an overabundance of empty tables. There's probably 20% of the tables left over, but people are kind of like filling in the dead space with inventory from other dealers and things like that. But I could see in the perfect scenario where they're going to start doing like exhibits. There's going to be more dealers that come by. PCGS may participate next year. We'll see what the show organizer has in store, but the overall general feel of the show is that it's turning from what was originally a content creator driven show to something that I think the show organizer wants more to see, and that's to be like a bigger entity in the show space each and every single year. It's to put it like firmly in between. Well, let's see. The Long Beach Expo was about a week and a half ago, and then the Baltimore Whitman, and then you had this Oklahoma Country Bumpkin Show right in the smack dab in the middle, and it has been awesome. The floor attendance has been fantastic. I think it's situated in a location where I think they were due for a bigger show. All right, and that's in the heartland of America. That'll help tailor to areas that are underserved for coin shows like Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, areas like this. I mean, the next other big, decent show for the area is going to be the St. Louis show, which is coming up here pretty soon, actually. And people have asked me, "Hey, you gonna be at the St. Louis show?" I mean, one day I'm gonna try it out. All right, it's only gonna be a matter of time before we do that. But ultimately, that's kind of like the next big, Midwest show, I guess. So that's kind of like what's happening with this particular show. 2-3 years ago, would I have guessed that it would grow up to be kind of like this junior woodchuck, medium sized important show? I didn't, and hats off to Mike with Mid America Coins, who was the show organizer, for getting this all together. He was pounding the pavement. He had his ear to the phone, trying to get all these important entities into a show like this is nothing short of spectacular. All right. So I wanted to take some time to talk about, and I'm just going to say that I probably talked to about 100 plus people during the 3-day, 2.5-day event. Thursday was mostly show setup, but around mid-afternoon is when it was open to the public, unless you did the whole early bird thing and you paid up for that. But it wasn't cheap either. It was like $40 or $50. I might be wrong, but you had to pay up to become an early bird person to walk in the door and do your thing. Overall, very strong show. I would say, me personally, I bought more than I sold, but I did sell quite a bit. And I wanted to take some time to talk about a little bit about the overall sentiment of the kind of like what's hot, what's not type deal. Again, I talked to a good solid 100 plus people, which is a good fair amount of people, and just kind of talk a little bit about what people are looking for. And by no means is this like financial advice to you guys, but just the overall general kind of like laundry list of things that people are looking for, or just no buzz whatsoever in certain things. So I wanted to, I guess, maybe talk about some of the things that a lot of people weren't really bringing up and talking about. And surprisingly, one of the things that, it's not like I had a lack whatsoever of any of this inventory. It was actually Silver Eagles. Now, it might just be that people recognize me as more of a numismatic person, but, based off of how enticing the market is right now for silver and gold because of the prices that are on them. I did bring a fair share of bullion of all different types. I had rounds, bars, I had 90%. Sold out almost immediately of my 90%, but it's not like I had this like overabundance. I had a few rolls of what I have 90% dimes that went really quickly. It's not like I was like dropping my pants down on any of this stuff. I was selling it, for right where the melt market is. Virtually no premiums whatsoever, by the way, on 90%. So what you had, you were just offering up, whatever, it is on it, 23 times face or whatever, and then people bought it, So, altogether I had maybe $22 face value, 90%. But I'm telling you guys, this stuff sold on the very first day. As a matter of fact, I think most of it sold during the early bird time frame of that first day. So, that was kind of cool. Was it shocking? No, not at all. But Silver Eagles, man, I had a fair amount of just raw Silver Eagles. I think I might have had two or three graded Silver Eagles, just a basic Unk, Bullion type that in like Mint State 70. I think I had a 69 in there. No one talked about it. Okay. Now, where I was positioned at, we were toward the back of the convention hall. So when you first walk into the Bourse, there were a number of dealers that had nothing but Silver Eagles. They had nothing but just straight up silver bullion. There was one dealer, like right as soon as you walk through the door, that had nothing but just dozens, if not hundreds, of Mint State 69 and 70 Silver Eagles. So obviously they need to touch that table to get to me, and then there were a bunch of other tables to get to me in the back. But I think I did a pretty good job of just kind of feeling everybody out. I like to have conversation with everybody that I meet, whether they're just kind of looking, or maybe there is something that they are interested in. I wanted to kind of deep dive into what they're looking for, which will ultimately kind of like craft this video. So Silver Eagles were cold, and that's based off of, again, the overall sentiment of the crowd that was there. People were willing to buy Silver Eagles, but they weren't willing to pay any huge, heavy premiums. I talked to my buddy Chad from Encore Gold and Coin. You guys know him as someone I do videos with on occasion. One thing that struggles mightily today are proof Silver Eagles, primarily the more modern dated ones from around the turn of the century all the way up to right now. They're really hard to move unless you're at like $35-40 for a raw one or a proof 69 one. They're kind of the redheaded stepchild of the bullion market right now, unfortunately. Whereas everything else, I had one person that bought all of my older Mexican Libertads. I had like 4 or 5 of them. Someone came in and just bought all of them. And I'm like, really? I have these at like $45-50, a piece, because they're like 1983s and 85s and things like that. And they generally command a much loftier premium, over, what you would consider to be like maybe an 86 Silver Eagle, which would be today maybe $34-35 an ounce. But yeah, I sold out of those really quickly. I sold out of a lot of the generics, some of the sovereign minted stuff. I had a few Britannias. I had a Maple Leaf that sold right away, and this was all within like the first day. By the time the end of day 2 had wrapped up, I had sold pretty much all of my bullion, both generic and the sovereign minted stuff. What did not sell was my Silver Eagles, and I had a couple kind of like oddball premium rounds, stuff from like the 70s, or actually the couple of vintage bars I did have from the 70s, those sold right away. Yeah, but I just had a few oddball kind of rounds with like low mintage. It's like finding like Marvel, Avengers type rounds and things like that, stuff that you would have to pay a huge premium to obtain, all that stuff, did not sell really quickly. Surprisingly, another thing that was a little bit on the slow side was paper money currency. I probably had just a few people ask about currency, and the people that I did ask of whether or not they were looking for something specific, paper money was not on the list. Now, I didn't have much in the way of paper money to begin with, although I did sell all the paper money that I did have, albeit it's a very, very minimal amount. I probably had 4 or 5 pieces in there, all raw, like silver certificate, $5 notes, things like that. And I sold those right away. They were kind of like bargain basement, economical, 15, 20 bucks a piece, things like that. So paper money, probably it's not the type of thing that normally I would bring up, because I didn't have much inventory. But I tell you what, as kind of a counterpoint to that, you know what was talked about a lot, and that's probably because I was the only dealer in the place that had them, was those darn goldbacks. I sold out of every single goldback. The last goldback I had was actually a PMG graded 70 star that I ended up trading with Adam Chambers, Coins Goals, as you guys know him, on like Whatnot and stuff. I traded that note to him for a coin that he had, and he wanted it. And I was like, okay, that's cool. What do you got? I was like, it was a note or a thing. It's a thing. I don't even consider it a note. If you went on the Goldback website, they're like $4 for a $1 face Goldback. But I had this perfect 70 grade one that I was asking like 45, $50 for, and we ended up settling on one of his graded Lincoln cents. Pretty nice one, actually. So, by the end of the show, I had sold all of my $1 goldbacks, my $5 goldbacks. I had some 10s and a 25. Ended up selling the last group of it to a couple that actually lives here in Northern California, because, those things can be used to barter and trade, like in Virginia City, Nevada. Just about every restaurant and bar and attraction, you could use those goldbacks to use all throughout the town. So that's pretty cool. Okay. And they actually have gold in them. So, continuing on, here's some of the more kind of weird niche stuff that I actually had like maybe half a dozen people ask for on the low end. That's kind of like the minimum. I had I had quite a few patrons that have asked for cap bus quarters. I actually had like 5 or 6 people ask for cap bus quarters. Did not have one. I didn't even have a lick of them in the last like 4 or 5 months because they're so expensive. So cap bus quarters, I had a couple cap bus halves that were in the case. I ended up, getting a few looky-loos, but the quarters is where it's at right now, apparently. Another thing that generated a lot of buzz was also Morgan dollars, both raw and graded. But the graded ones, from what I understand, a lot of people are looking for, they're trying to chase like graded toned Morgans. I actually have a good example here. And this is one that you guys have seen quite a few times. Things like this, that people want to buy that's already graded. That's actually in a rattler. This thing had so many eyeballs. It was like, a starlet walking down the red carpet in Hollywood. That's what this coin was. But nobody wanted to, pull the trigger on it. I had it at like $8.75, worth every penny. I even had another dealer that was interested in this, and he asked me, "Oh, how much do you want for it?" I said $8.75. He's like, "Yep, that's how much I would have offered it on my table too." So that was actually Keith from Coin Crew. Good to see you, brother, by the way. And it's like, people love the allure of the tone stuff. I actually sold one tone coin that was really pretty. I sold my 1972 double to die offers Lincoln cent. It's in a 65 red brown NGC holder, one of the older ones without the prongs. Sold that for pretty close what I was asking for it, and he had no problem just dropping the money right there. That was a bucket list coin for him. But, all in all, it was a very good show. I've had people ask for like half cents, large cents. There were people asking for, believe it or not, Lincoln cents didn't get as much play at my table compared to some of the other things. It's like, that's the biggest like series that people collect into. Let's see what else. Yeah, nothing really. I mean, I sold all my weird, I sold a few of my bigger oddball exonumia. Like I had this 1819 British crown that was actually enameled and turned into a pin. So whoever had owned it a long time ago had put a pin back on it. You could wear it like on your shirt. I sold that pretty quickly. It was like the guy didn't even balk at my price. It's not like I was charging like an extraneous amount of money. It was just a very interesting, kind of like unique exonumia item. I mean, I did really well. All right. And I had the opportunity to go around, talk to the dealers, and, people were, another dealer said, yeah, I just sold a 1909S Indian Ed Cent, a raw one, and it was like a $600 coin. And, there were like instances like that where a lot of dealers were just, having a really good time. And, you know, um, there weren't a whole lot of kind of like big whales. Like you didn't hear about a guy that came, and this might change in the future because on some of the bigger shows that are more well known, okay, the bigger whales are at those, number one. And also the big auction houses also attend those too, like Great Collections, Heritage Auctions, Stax Bowers. They'll go to a money show or a Long Beach Expo and things like that, because that's where they want to pitch and up promote all these folks with the larger amount of capital, and I wouldn't be completely complete. Man, my mind is all over the place today. But anyways, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I didn't talk about the fact that there were quite a few of the younger demographic crowd in attendance, that were in that kind of like 18 to 25-year-old range. There were a fair amount of them, and normally you would see this kind of demographic at the bigger shows. We actually saw a few of them here at this show. So that was cool to see. I actually had one guy who probably looks like he was like 23, 24 years old, drop like $300-400 on my table. And it's not like I had this overabundance of coins because I was sharing a showcase with someone else. So, what I did bring was a little bit constrained because I couldn't bring everything. I knew I would be sharing a case, and it was just overall a really great experience. And I want to thank everyone that did make it a reality. I want to also send a shout out to Seeker and Rob Finds Treasures as well. Rob, I hope you get better, buddy. I know he's been going through some health issues and all that. So I wish you the best, and hopefully they find what's going on with you. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Hopefully it wasn't too discombobulated and all over the place. It was just really cool to talk about the show. Now, I hadn't done that up until now. So again, can't wait to do it next year. I hope to see you guys later, and keep on collecting. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my content if you haven't done so already. I will be live on Whatnot tonight. We're going to be giving away a $600 Garrett AT Pro metal detector and a bunch of other goodies as well for hitting 10,000 followers. I'll have my referral link down below in the description box, but I may get out of here. I got a lot of work to do on this Friday. I'll see you guys later. So long.